It's time to talk about Tormin the Cold in honor of the Yuletide event going on, where players are going to have an opportunity to earn some snow points to acquire him over the month of December. I have just put up the tree this morning, and now Neo is hopefully not going to knock it over during the video here. Hopefully he'll behave and not get too crazy with the tree. But okay, with Tormin the Cold, I talked about this yesterday in my video, so I'm not going to rehash it too much. He was released back in the winter of 2019 for the holiday season event as a fusion champion designed to counter the overwhelmingly popular speed meta in the arena, to give players a counter to the boost up, debuff, nuke meta when 99.9% of teams were exactly the same, and mainly because of his passive here, where if you're on a go second defensive team, he has the ability to CC and freeze those opponents before they can actually fully do their rotation of nuking you down. And he's been reworked and adjusted probably 3 or 4 times at this point over the years to kind of try and balance him out. He was super insane broken when he got released, and now he is going to be a little bit more of a niche kind of counter specific. What did I say? What is going on? Please don't knock over my tree. So there's going to be a few different ways to build a Tormin. He's not going to be that great in PvE content, but he's definitely got a use in PvP. I actually still to this day use Tormin a lot, like in my lazy arena farm team where I just want to auto through the full playlist and go through all the teams. I have Tormin in there because he's kind of like that Swiss Army knife that can help me counter those speed teams. I can play a little bit more of a defensive, lazy style when I'm farming the arena, consistently doing well versus any team I kind of come up against. And I will pick him in the live arena. So if I go up against a team that is picking Arbiter, they're obviously trying to build Lysandra, stuff like that. They're trying to go first. I'll throw Tormin in there to throw them off. And a lot of times they will scare the opponent enough, or he will scare the opponent enough, where they will want to ban Tormin. And because of that, when I built my Tormin, I really leaned into the CC aspect of his kit, because that is when he is performing his strongest, in my opinion, is PvP CC crowd control. So I went with the stun set and got enough HP and defense and tankiness on him to be able to sustain in a more defensive team, wanting to get around 500 accuracy on him so I could farm up just kind of lazily in gold 4 and gold 5 and keep the Magisteel rolling and keep the Great Hall progression rolling on my account. So obviously when we're building him, reaction pieces, if you got them, would be incredible. Go through your rings and amulets and banners and see if you have any reaction pieces. Speaking of, I may have an opportunity here to throw on a reaction piece. They're both crit damage, which is a little bit unfortunate. I wouldn't want to waste that. And ideally I would want one with a double accuracy roll. You know, the reaction set bonus may be worth it. This is debatable, but yeah, reaction is pretty strong, so I could almost justify glyphing one of these up and then replacing it. But you also want to go through your banners and check those. Ideally, you do want an accuracy banner on Tormin, because you're going to need good accuracy on him to get value out of those freezes and the CC that he's trying to pull off. And another reason that I like to go with the stun set on Tormin is anytime you're popping off with like one of those default abilities where they run in and use it, like a counterattack proc from a Mastery, or if you've got Marichka who's going to join in with a random ally, what Tormin's going to do is detonate this A1, and if you've got him in a stun set, you've got a chance to place a freeze for 1 turn, or you can activate these stun sets. So you've got kind of 2 different buckets to dip into in terms of pulling off a CC just kind of for free passively during the fight. And it does actually synergize with HP burn really well, but you're not going to end up, that doesn't really see a whole lot of play just because HP burn's a little bit underwhelming in the arena. But if you did have somebody like an Ignatius or something, you've got reliable AoE HP burn, you would constantly pop off with these A1s, and then you would get even more value out of a stun set. Then as far as the Masteries, there's a couple different things to talk about here. So for most builds, like if I were going to make an infographic, or if I were going to write a guide for a website or something for Tormin the Cold doing CC and PvP, I would say that you probably want to go with Fearsome Presence here, especially if you're going to be wearing the stun set, which I was. But unfortunately, with the build that I had on my Tormin, trying to farm up in gold 5, I felt like my accuracy was a little bit low. So I prioritized this because it's going to affect his entire kit. But ideally, I would go through and rework him a little bit to raise up his accuracy closer to 500, 550, and then switch this mastery on over to the Fearsome Presence. I could maybe swap out the speed gear that I have on him for some perception and stuff like that. So that is an opportunity to grow my Tormin a little bit. I would say most of you, if you're wearing the stun set, you're going to want to go with the Fearsome Presence here on the mastery. And then here in the defensive tree, he actually gets some pretty good value out of a couple of these abilities down here. You get the Harvest Despair. You are going to be placing leeches on your opponents because Tormund's going to be placing those freezes, and it's going to synergize with a pretty good chance to place a leech that will again help you cycle through on your defensive teams. And then you also have the chance to counterattack when losing 25% of max HP, and that gives you the opportunity to pop off with that A1 and do the CC with the stun or the freeze. And then you've also got this one right here with the chance to counterattack an enemy when they apply some CC to your team, and they added the Petrify in there with Mithrawa. So you can actually, especially if you pair him with someone like Marichka, you can really get a lot of those A1s and get a ton of value out of the stun set, which means I probably need to go through add Perception Gear and then swap my Mastery over to Fearsome Presence, and my Tormin would be a lot better. So then when it comes to actually utilizing Tormin in PvP and in the arena, I'll start here with Classic Arena. What I'll usually do is a team like this where I'm trying to cover every single role in my team, where I can perform well against either defensive teams or speed teams. Like you see here, their goal is to boost with the Arbiter, buff strip, defense break with the Madame Ceres, and then nuke down with the Trunda. And what I'm going to do here with my Tormin and my Duchess and my Uko and my Sun Wukong is try to cover as many roles as possible. I've got my Tormin to help me get to being able to go, because I know that with this kind of a team, I'm going to lose a lot of the speed battles. Tormin will help me get there to where I can freeze them, CC them, and then allow me to start my rotation on the defensive side. I've got Duchess, obviously, to help save me against the AoE nukes if my Tormin doesn't freeze everything. Also to revive if I lose somebody, I get the double revive there with the Mighty Uko. Mighty Uko is also going to bring the speed buff and the buff strip, and then I've got my Sun Wukong to be a self-reviving, self-sustained DPS to be able to nuke down my opponents and at least provide me some damage, so I don't end up in 12-minute fights when I'm trying to farm the arena. So typically it's going to look something like this. If you bring a Tormin in, you're going to lose the speed battle. That's fine. We got some freezes, allows me to go. I buff strip, I'm off and running. And once I get to this point where I'm playing a defensive team and I'm popping off, which Tormin helps me get there, now we know the fight is over because they've already kind of missed out on their bulk of value, and I just got to kind of slowly whittle them down. And I like doing this because if I'm streaming, I'm reading chat, I've got stuff pulled up on other monitors, or I'm just having conversations with people that I'm hanging out with in stream and stuff, I can just kind of farm the arena here with this Tormin team. And even if they've got a pretty decent setup, I'm usually going to be fine in gold 4 or gold 5. I don't have to worry about like swapping out different teams or trying different compositions. I just kind of run this team always no matter what, and it usually performs pretty well. So in terms of actually utilizing a champion in PvP, Tormin is probably one of the champions I've used the most in my raid career, just because I like to play that lazy defensive style and just kind of go through and auto my arena battles. So let's pull up on the website and let's see what they've got here for the grades. I'll let you know if I agree, disagree, anywhere like that. So they've got Tormin at a 3.5 out of 5 right now on the tier list. I mostly agree with that. He's pretty solid. He kind of loses value a little bit in the end game, but early game, mid game, he is insane in the arena. He's a massive pain to deal with. So very good in PvP, especially early and mid game. Falls off a little bit, and not very good in PvE. So I think 3.5, pretty fair for his overall grade out of 5 stars. All right, so yeah, you see in these key areas in PvE, rated pretty low in all of these, with the Doom Tower coming out as the highest grade. I actually agree with that. I think he's pretty solid in the Doom Tower, because what you can do is you're not really up against a clock, and you can try stages over and over in the Doom Tower. Tormin can actually be very good in terms of just playing some of those slow CC styles to help you progress into those tougher stages of the Doom Tower. So I really do like these grades. He's pretty underwhelming in other places. Then as far as dungeons, I think these grades are almost a little high. You know, they've got him as a really good grade in the Spider. And yeah, I don't know, I probably would have given him like a 3-star in the Spider. So maybe a little bit high there, but you know, there is some synergy with like the HP burns and stuff, and he does have the AoE A1. Could be good in certain scenarios, I guess, there in the Spider. Dragon, Golem. Yeah, I don't know. I think these grades are maybe even a little bit high in PvE, and he's really not going to be that great in the hard mode dungeons there. Doom Tower, yeah, we kind of talked about that a little bit. Damage, great for Faction Wars. I maybe put that more towards like below average or average. Yeah, crowd control very, very good in the faction wars for sure. If you're trying to progress into those tougher stages of faction wars, you're gonna want Tormin part of your original 5 on your progression team for the dwarves. Then later on, when you build a speed farming team, you'll probably take Tormin out. The unfortunate thing, if I remember right, about the dwarf faction wars is I believe their boss is the one that's going to be kind of hitting you for a bunch of like ignore defense. I believe he ignores 100% of defense. So on the very last stage, Tormin might kind of be the opposite of the type of champion you're trying to bring versus the boss. You'd want somebody with high HP, but nonetheless, he's going to be very good for progression in faction wars. And the reason they've got reviving great is because he does actually have something I haven't talked about, which is going to be that active effect on his passive where he's going to revive to 100% HP, which is actually better than most revives in the game. And he's also going to place a freeze debuff on himself. So he's going to get that full good self revive, but in turn he's going to suffer some CC and not really be able to take his turn right away. Then for arena rolls, yeah, I think either 4 or even 4.5, maybe a little bit over here would be good. I wouldn't quite go the full 5-star on him. I don't think he's like a Siphi or, you know, something like that, Duchess, whatever. But yeah, 4, 4.5, either one of those, pretty solid in the arena that I agree with. And then how does his pick rate, ban rate, and everything look in the live arena? So actually pretty low pick rate there in Bronze 1. That's a lot lower than I thought it would be. Bronze 2, it's going up a little bit. And yeah, so typically when you're looking through these, like in the live arena, you've got 5 champions that you're picking. So if the ban rate is how it relates to 20% is going to be how you can tell if a champion is feared or not. If it's under 20%, that means they're not really getting a fair share of the bans within the teams they're represented in. If it's above 20%, it means they're getting banned a lot when they do get picked. So you can see here, I mean, he's around 20% here at with a 60% win rate. That's really good in Bronze 2. Bronze 3, okay. Yeah, 25%. That's actually a really good ban rate. It's above that 20%. The reason I say that is because you've got 5 champions you're picking. What's 100 divided by 5? 20% would be like the baseline ban rate. With still a good win rate there. Bronze 4, again, very, very solid in Bronze. Like I say, early to mid game, even kind of like the Bronze of the live arena, very solid champion. As we get into Silver, I expect it to get a little bit worse. Yeah, the win rate drops down just a little bit. Ban rate staying high though. Silver 2 stays high, but the win rate is really dropping. Silver 3, yeah, still really, really solid. Really solid stats here in the live arena. Silver 4 still going strong. I expect it to drop off a lot in gold. Still looking good in gold 1. This is surprising. Wow. Okay, gold 3. Yeah. I mean, because I guess if you go last and they're doing a speed team, you can really pop off with Tormin and counter them pretty hard. And if you've got somebody else like a Siphi or something, or a Duchess or Marichka, Taras, someone that they would really want to ban, and they can't ban Tormin, now you'd be in a good spot, and he would really provide a lot of utility there. So yeah, really, as we go through the whole subset of the live arena, his stats are pretty solid. But you can see up in the upper tiers, people start to fear him a lot less. He's got like that 21% ban rate instead of back here where it was always around like 25 to 28. Players start to fear him a little bit less in the upper tiers, but still performs a lot better than I thought he would when I first was going to go through this. So hopefully you enjoyed this rehash, Tormin the Cold, the 2023 into 2024 breakdown of if he's still viable and having the rehashed discussion of him. If you're going for him, good luck. It looks like about 35-40% of you out there in my community polling are going to be trying to go after Tormin. I'm still a little bit on the fence if I'm going to or not. It might be fun to get an empowerment level because I do use my Tormin, but I don't want to go crazy like popping a bunch of shards to proc effects unless they had it like double dip with a certain 2x or the fusion. If they have it double dip with the fusion and I have to pull shards anyway, like ancients or something, I'll probably end up going for it, and I'll try to stay within striking distance of that. I'll also work on an infographic and get that sent out as a community post here if you're looking for a nice laid out infographic of my build here for Tormin the Cold. Make sure you subscribe to stay in the loop of the community tab where I put out all the polls and studies and infographics and stuff like that. So I appreciate all of you. Have a good rest of your day, and thankfully Neo is finally being good and is going to leave the tree alone. It gets a little bit dicey here the first time I put it up. So yeah, have a good rest of your weekend. I'll see you soon. Peace.